Hey folks, I have received some requests to update my ultimate camera rig asset for Cinema4D. So I had some time recently and I was able to rebuild it from scratch. And it's been a while since I created the first one, so I was able to add in some new features and get some feedback on features that would be cool to include. And so I've rebuilt it, and now there is a advanced and basic version for both Redshift and Octane. I'm going to walk through some of those features here just to show you what it's capable of now and give you some ideas for how you might use it in your workflow. I think it's a really useful asset, and it's my go-to camera setup in all my default scenes. So it's going to be available on Gumroad. You'll get it for free if you subscribe to my Patreon, and it's going to be a part of a starter pack bundle for Cinema4D that'll include my layouts, my cameras, my settings, my plugins I use, everything like that. So if you're interested, check those things out. And also, if you subscribe to my newsletter, who knows, you might get some other free stuff too. Cool. So let's get started here. So what we're going to do is just look at the motion camera setup here. There's a README file with instructions on how to use it, so you can check that out. If it's your first time opening the file, this is what you'll see in the advanced camera rig. And the main camera we want to use is this one called motion camera, and all of our controls here are going to be in the camera controls null. So you can see there are a lot of menus to twirl down, but we're going to just start with base motion here. So we can set up a basic camera animation. Let's keyframe a few of these parameters. Cool. So now we have a camera animation. You can see something's happening because one of the secondary motion options is already turned on, which should be off by default, but if it's not, you can just turn it off. So this is our camera animation, and it's fine already, but it is pretty basic right now. And I want to cover a couple of the things in the base motion. So we have a height setting, and then we have a height offset. So this camera is on a track, and the height offset offsets it from the primary height control. If you use the height offset, one thing that you'll see is the camera distance will now not go straight in. It will have a curvature to it. And so that's the reason I've included this, is for situations where you don't want to have just a straight dolly in. You want some curvature to the motion of the camera. And like I said, it is on this track. So in addition to the rotation from center, you can rotate it around the track as well. Get some interesting motion that way. And then camera tilt, pretty self-explanatory there. So those are the base motions. We can also adjust our focal length here, turn on the depth of field and adjust the aperture, and also use any of our shifting that we might want to do. Okay, so the targets tab I'm going to come back to. Secondary motion is a fun one. So there's a couple different options in here. So we can turn on auto banking, and that will add banking to the motion of the camera. So you can see it kind of swings as the camera moves, and you can adjust the intensity and the dampening of that motion. So that's the auto banking. The secondary motion adds some sort of jiggle. So like when the camera stops, it doesn't just stop immediately. So you'll see what I'm saying here. So you can see when the camera stops, it like hits it's like if you stopped running, really suddenly. You wouldn't just lose all momentum immediately, but it would kind of jiggle and jiggle to a stop. So that's what the secondary motion is for. And you can adjust the intensity and the dampening, like with the auto banking as well. The camera shake is, pretty much exactly what you'd expect, and there's a couple different options here. So there's two kinds of rotation. One is centered and one is not centered. And we can adjust for rotation and position as well, and then adjust the frequency as much as we want here. And then this is the actual amount of the allowed rotation or position movement. So this is a fun one for sure. So yeah, those are all your kind of secondary motion options. We have the built-in composition guides to help you set up your shots and all the customization that you might want to do with those. The golden sections one I like a lot. Your crosshair. You can add the focus plane to see where your camera is focusing. And yeah, that's the composition guides. That's a really useful one. And by default, the camera rig will be targeting this focus object in here. You can remove that. You can take it out of the rig and animate it just like with the target. But this is where you would put the focus object and the primary target object. So the focus is this one in blue or whatever color you want, and the target is the one in orange or yellow or whatever you want that to be. Cool. So yeah, let's talk about the multiple targets. So you can see in here there are extra targets, 2, 3, and 4. So this allows you to smoothly interpolate between different targets for your camera to look at, right? So let's go into the controller again. And so make sure this is on, obviously, to access this. And the intensity also has to be up to a non-zero value. And then we can see it blends between 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4. And then if we adjust the intensity, we can just adjust how much it's being affected by that. And yeah, like we can blend between all these values as much as we want to. I know that this is not the smoothest possible system. I tried for a while to create some sort of system where you can just smoothly interpolate between all of these options, but it was a difficult espresso challenge, and I just didn't have the time to figure it out at this point. So if anybody does know how and wants to tell me or work with me on the rig to update that would be great. But at this point, that's just not a feature that's going to be included for now. So that is the targeting section. And then the last one we have is the spline tracks. So if you choose to use spline tracks, it's going to override the track that it's currently using. So let's just create a track for our camera to use that's different from this one. Okay, cool. So now we have this track here, and we're going to drag that into the track 1 section. And then we can see here if we click use spline tracks and, oh, there, yeah, you can see it jumped. Okay, so there the camera goes to the start of the track, and now it is on there. This other camera is our primary camera. So we can turn the camera visibility off so we can hide that. Go back to, you can see it's still looking at our target here that we've identified. And then let's turn off the focus plane. And as we animate along here, we can see that it's animating. Let's get some visual feedback here with an object. So yeah, you can see we have this just following along the track. You can add a second one and blend between them and also adjust how intensely it's following the track, which I don't know. I think if you're going to use the track, you probably want it to follow pretty much exclusively on the track, but yeah, you can adjust that as well. And this one can like interact with the multiple targets function as well. So if we want to have the object, let's first delete these because we don't need these keyframes anymore. And now let's add a animation to the position and then also the transition between target 1 and target 2. Let's see what that ends up looking like. So yeah, that's not a great looking camera movement right now, but I think that it kind of helps you to understand what some of the functionality is built in here. And you could change the focus as well to wherever you want it to focus on. And let's turn off the use spline tracks now, so it's just back to default. If you want, you can also take the target side of the controller null. And so then you would have the option to animate this whole rig and the target will stay in place. So that can be useful for, moving the whole rig and being able to continue to maintain your consistent target. Otherwise, if we have the whole thing, all the target and everything in here, it's all just going to move with it. Cool. Well, that is most of what I wanted to cover in this one. And so there's a stripped down version of the rig for my everyday usage when I don't need most of those controls on a regular basis. So this one just has the camera controls, the base controls and settings, ability to alter your target and focus, and the composition guides. So this is, bread. And then this is just, for those advanced situations where you need a lot more customization and control. And so this same thing is going to carry over to the Octane rig, same sort of setup here. It's a slightly different because Octane camera setup kind of allows different things to work, but it has most of the same functionality here. And then again, with the basic version of the rig available too. So that is pretty much everything for the camera rigs themselves. And I think that, yeah, it allows you to just really increase the speed at which you're able to create custom camera motions and really just kind of get you to a higher level of camera quality quicker. So that's the whole goal. So I hope that it's useful for you. If you have any feature requests or bugs or anything that you run into, if you do purchase the rig, please let me know and I will fix those. And anyone who buys any version of this rig will have access to updates of any of those versions. So like I said, it'll be available on Gumroad and my Patreon. And if you subscribe to my newsletter, you might get it for free. So hope that it works out really well for you. I built this because it's really helpful for me in my day-to-day 3D design workflow. And if you want to join me on Discord and, shoot the breeze there too, feel free to hop in there. All right. I will catch you in the next video. Bye.